Brought to you by introducing the all-new Roofing's TM.
Uganda, and we are having Good Morning Uganda set up and ready for you 6:30 to 9 a.m. Welcome to a brand new day and a brand new week. It is Monday and we're so happy to have you here with us. I know it was an interesting weekend. Some of you, it may not have been as good, and some of you it was more than just good. But the beauty about it all is that we managed to go through it and we are into a new day and a new dawn. The Fantastic Four are here ready to set you up for the week. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga, alongside Robert Kirabo, Felix Nkunda and Nyonyintono, and allow me to introduce them to you afresh. Good morning to you, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, Priscilla. Welcome back from the weekend. I must say you're so ready for a Monday.
Oh, trust me, like I did my exercise, I warmed up, yeah, we are good to go.
Well, and I just hope equally our viewers are, because it is really a new week. And the way you start your week matters a lot. If you start with a positive mindset, very, very energetic, then I believe victory is along your way, whatever challenges may come to you this week.
Well, it's a new way to actually start with the week, and challenges are part of life. Speaking of which, nature, weather and climate continue to face challenges, but COP26 hopefully has found solutions to some of those. I was watching a very interesting interview by Harris Kamala. Yes, and she was interrogating the NASA president there, asking him if NASA can be able to count trees from above the skies. It was a very interesting thing to ask satellites counting trees. Is that possible? Anyway, Nyonyintono and Felix Nkunda maybe can help me answer those. Good morning to you guys.
Yes, good morning to you, Priscilla. Well, counting trees, I think, yes, it can still be detected by the satellites. So I think the question is what is the extent that would go? But it's interesting because also she did talk about the fact that Americans this winter are likely to pay more costs for energy. In fact, the fact that America is cutting its coal production and more dependency on fossil fuels, that is including oil and gas. So that is interesting to see, and also exciting to know that Americans are actually moving to renewable energy. I think it's good news coming through.
All right.
Yeah.
Felix Nkunda?
Well, of course, much is happening around the world in terms of what we must be doing to save this so-called environment. But the question is, aren't we part of the environment?
Yes, we are. It's an ecosystem.
Well, I think the discussion also now should be able to address a human challenge. Robert talks about human activity much, and I think that's something that wasn't like well discussed regarding, because if you're able to tap into the welfare of human beings, probably that helps much in saving the other, like looking at people who encroach on all these people who cut trees, encroachment, deforestation, just to mention, but if you even industrialization. So probably the other discussion that I didn't get much in this event was a discussion about like the welfare of human beings to be able to deal with this whole climate thing.
Yeah, because it is clear that we are the ones who are in competition with the environment, like you put it. So we are waging this war and putting stress on the environment, but it also has a lot to do with our lifestyle. So in fact, if people are unable to have a better lifestyle or cope with what is existing, then they have to encroach. So I think there has to be a balance,
so if
for
you
sure.
take care of the people's welfare, I guess you'll be solving so much.
Yeah,
Well, you see, the irony of it is that while you are taking care, quote unquote, of people's or humanity welfare, it's actually what causes encroachment because of the development and evolution of things, like, for example, just buildings. If you were to still stay in the Stone Age, we wouldn't be having these challenges, but you know, skyscrapers are coming up everywhere, meaning that you're going to affect the wetlands, you're going to be affecting different variations of nature, which is still going to come back to us, unfortunately. What do you have to say about this, Robert?
Well, for me, what I expected from COPE and what I'm still waiting is to ensure that we need, when Felix talks about human activity, true, if it had been discussed to a certain level, let me just give a simple example here in Uganda. We've always had a challenge, the floods we're having in Bududa, the floods we're having that side, is people occupying these places have long ago asked for compensation so that they leave this place. Much as there is pressure, if government can relocate them, they are willing to leave. So how did they discuss funds that are going to help such things? When you go to Namasuba, it's raining, but you may find that many of the people there would want to leave long time ago if they had an alternative. Yeah. And what is the problem is they don't have the money. A person will tell you, I don't sleep because as I'm resting, water has taken over my bed. People in Wise would want to leave, and I don't think there's scarcity of land, by the way. Well, but the problem is we don't have the funds that can relocate these people to safer places. So human activity, to that perspective, to what extent did we go other than committing ourselves to fighting deforestation by 2030 and all that?
Well, it's an interesting debate because the examples Robert does share are for people who will need to be aided in affording another place. But yet, unfortunately for us, the biggest encroachers on environment are the wealthy people. I was in Bukasa most recently, and I was amazed at how the swamp continues to be eaten up by the rich. And no one is saying anything about it. And no one is doing anything about it. Neither any other concerned authority. So where does that leave us? I think it leaves us to a very damped place, and you definitely will realize that more and more is going to happen. And it's because of such encroachments that then you see water levels rising on Lake Victoria, because the place that they would have naturally risen to and still would have been okay has been encroached on. Anyway, it's a big conversation, a big debate. We cannot finish it right now. We are just saying, take care of the environment so that it can take care of you. Follow us this morning on Twitter at UBC TV Uganda for live updates and anything you could have missed. And then you can also go live onto our YouTube channel, which is UBC Television Uganda, and walk the journey with us until 9 a.m. A lot to expect. But for now, allow us to dive into the stories for the weekend. Have a recap in case you missed it. You get to get the full details here.
And we'll start by people who turned up in huge numbers at Bulange Mengo for the COVID-19 vaccination exercise that was organized by the Kingdom of Buganda and partners, where close to 6,000 people took their vaccine against COVID-19 at the Buganda Kingdom headquarters, Bulange in Mengo, in the ongoing mass campaign. While closing this 2 days exercise, the first Deputy Katikkiro of Buganda, Professor Twaha Kawesa, emphasized the importance of federal system in mobilizing and extending services to the public. Hundreds of people braved a heavy downpour that was yesterday to get their vaccine. Records at the vaccination center indicated that at least 6,000 people had so far been vaccinated at Bulange. The first Deputy Katikkiro, Twaha Kawesa, praised the public for the enthusiasm shown. Professor Twaha reiterated the importance of federal system of government in mobilizing the public for common cause. The vaccination exercise at Bulange was being supported by the Uganda Kingdom, Uganda Breweries Limited, and other partners. Vaccination drives are responding to the recent presidential advice that all Ugandans embrace vaccination to facilitate the full reopening of the economy by January next year.
State Minister for Higher Education, Dr. John Chrysostom Muyingo, has commended universities and institutions of higher learning across the country for adhering to COVID-19 standard operation procedures. Muyingo wants universities to put in place measures aimed at encouraging service providers and neighbors to embrace vaccination. The minister was on a working tour of Mbarara University of Science and Technology, where he encouraged the university administration to establish vaccination centers for students and staff who are not yet vaccinated. The minister, who was accompanied by officials from National Council of Higher Education and Mbarara University administration, also visited Mbarara University Teaching Hospital. The Regional Director, Global Seed Health, Dr. Bonventure Ahaisiwe, promised to continue working with government medical teaching universities and institutions to boost professionalism of the health sector. The Executive Director, National Council of Higher Education, Professor Mary Akwakol, said these monitoring visits are aimed at assessing the state and safety of medical school environment.
And yesterday being Sunday, we look at the spiritual realm, where the leader of the born-again faith in Uganda, Apostle Joseph Serada, has appealed to preachers to provide correct information to their congregation. This was contained in a sermon he delivered at the International Pentecostal Churches Conference of Preachers and Pastors from Uganda, Congo, Kenya, among others, at Kakiri Best Caring Heart Breakthrough Ministries in Wachiso District. Pastors from Uganda, Congo, Tanzania, Burundi, Sudan, and Kenya were attending an International Pentecostal Churches Conference in Kakiri, Wachiso. The leader of the born-again faith in Uganda, Apostle Joseph Serada, appealed to pastors to always ensure they appreciate the truth during their work, more so while delivering sermons. The State Minister for Land, Sam Mayanja, officiated at the closing of the conference being hosted by the Caring Hearts Ministries in Kakiri Town Council. Pastor Paul Musisi of Caring Heart Breakthrough Ministries, Kakiri, encouraged Pentecostal churches to embrace unity and love among each other for sustainable preaching of the gospel. The 7-day conference aimed at enhancing cooperation and brotherhood among pastors across the region. Caring Hearts Breakthrough Ministries reaches out to widows, orphans, and helpless, helping them restore lost hope.
Minister for Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, has appreciated the leadership and people of Greater Mubende for their support to government programs and aspirations. Mubende is one of the districts where the NRM party garnered sufficient support during the recent parliamentary and presidential elections. The Minister for Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, was officiating a Thanksgiving ceremony for Sam Magara, a Mubende-based journalist. Baryomunsi urged Mubende leaders to work harmoniously and promote the goals and objectives of NRM for prosperity to prevail. Members of Parliament from Mubende district that attended the event appealed for more government support development initiatives in the area. Baryomunsi did pledge more government support to the people of Mubende and neighboring areas and vowed to forward the leaders' concern to President Yoweri Museveni. And now to turn to our international news update.
And our first story, we'll be looking at US to reopen borders to vaccinated travelers after 20 months. Now the US is reopening its borders on Monday to double-jabbed foreign visitors, ending a 20-month entry ban. And the ban was imposed by former President Donald Trump due to COVID-19. It has affected non-US citizens from over 30 countries, including UK, EU states, and of course separating families and stalling tourism. Airlines have expected are expecting a flood of visitors as the restrictions are lifted for those who are fully vaccinated. Now it feels good. It also feels good, Jerome Thomas, head of the Paris-based travel agency Jet Set Voyage, told Reuters News. Now in the effort to stop the spread of coronavirus, US borders were initially closed to travelers from China early 2020, and of course restrictions were then extended to other countries. Now still international stories, Iraqi Prime Minister survives assassination attempt, while we see Mustafa al-Khamenei escaped an assassination attempt on Sunday after an explosive laden drone targeted his residence in Baghdad. Now the country's military said Al-Khamenei went on a Twitter moments after the attack and called for calm and restraint from everyone. Thank God I am fine and among my people, he tweeted on his official account. He called the attack cowardly, saying that they work against the better future of the country. Now Al-Khamenei called for calm and reconstructive dialogue for the sake of Iraq and the future of the people of Iraq. Now, still international stories. Bahrain says he will not be part of Sudan government after transition. Sudan's Army Chief General Abdel Fattah comes out to say he will not be part of the government that comes after the transition period, and denied that the army was responsible for death of protesters rallying against the military takeover. Now, nationwide anti-coup protests have taken place since October 25th, power grab by the army, but even amid the deadly crackdown, at least 14 demonstrators have been killed and about 300 wounded, according to the Independent Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors. It's our pledge, a pledge we made to ourselves and Sudanese people, the international community, that we are committed to completing the democratic transition, holding elections on time, and committed to not stopping any political activity as long as it is peaceful and within the bounds of the constitutional declaration.
From the climate summit that is ongoing in Glasgow, COP26, fossil fuel industry has the largest delegation at the climate summit. Now, there are more delegates at COP26 associated with fossil fuel industry than from any single country. Now, analysis shared with the BBC shows that campaigners led by the Global Witness assessed the participant list published by the UN at the start of the meeting. They found that 503 people with links to fossil fuel interests had been accredited for the climate summit. Now, these delegates are said to lobby for oil and gas industries, and campaigners say they should be banned. Now, the fossil fuel industry has spent decades denying and delaying real action on the climate crisis, which is why this is such a huge problem, says Mary Worth from Global Witness. Now, their influence is one of the biggest reasons why 25 years of UN climate talks have not led to real cuts in global emissions. Around 40,000 people are attending the COP. Brazil has the largest official team of negotiators, according to the UN data, which is 479 delegates. The UK, which is hosting the talks in Glasgow, has 230 registered delegates. So what counts as a fossil fuel lobbyist, as Global Witness explains, is corporate accountability, and others who have carried out the analysis define a fossil fuel lobbyist as someone who is part of a delegation of a trade association and is a member of a group that represents the interests of oil and gas companies.
So much, and of course, as you know, we are in a drive, vaccination and mass vaccination for COVID-19 here in Uganda. Many of you have been saying, well, we have few vaccines. Well, that is no longer our case. No challenge here in Uganda, courtesy of the Ministry of Health, that continues to ensure that it pushes for us to get more vaccinations, of which we now pride in having received 3.4 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine, and this is Pfizer vaccine vaccine, which was received over the weekend by the Minister, Dr. Ruth Jane Achane, and that was from the U.S. government that gave us this donation and this support. And so this is a positive one. Of course, where we stand as of 5th November 2021, the vaccination drive has administered vaccines to the total of 3,319,651 doses that have so far been administered. Our target is basically 5 million by the end of this year, meaning that we have a balance of over 1 million plus. Now that we have these other 3.4 million, we want to have a 5 million population that is fully vaccinated by the year 2021. And we continue to see this around our communities. I would like to ask my colleagues, how is the vaccination going within Machindi Division?
It's not been bad, but on Friday I encouraged some people to go for vaccination, and when they arrived at about 2 of our centers, the vaccines had run out.
Okay.
I think there's still more that has to be done in terms of ensuring that the vaccines are there. However, they had to come to the Otax Park, and the vaccines were there, they got vaccinated. So these are other outlets that may not attract so many people. Still, we need to have these vaccines there, because one day people don't turn up in huge numbers. The following day, you don't know what happens. They turn up in huge numbers.
All right. Molin Kenyana, in your area code, how are people responding to this vaccination drive?
Well, I think right now people have become aware that this is something that is done in a lot of vaccination centers, and I did have at least a few of my neighbors who were asking me about the fact that I have been vaccinated, if I've had to go through some side effects, and I had to explain to a few people, tell them, look, it's okay, I actually never got any side effects, it's okay after the vaccination. So that kind of motivates people to also go in, and because now you know, then they will tell someone else about it, and I think that's a good start, that we can all encourage each other to go.
Okay, for Felix, it's under 2 capacities. One, you are in the education sector, so it's compulsory for you to get a vaccine, and also students. As you have been engaging in back to school processing, how has that drive been and response from the students?
Well, I think there's so much positive response from the aspect of vaccination, and everyone is willing to get on board. We just have to make sure we are available and accessible in terms of the people who will do this whole thing of vaccinating.
Okay, all right. Robert Kirabo, another way people can keep healthy this morning?
Definitely. All you have to do is to ensure that you take Hallelujah reflexology products, that Hallelujah ginger tea and Hallelujah turmeric. These drinks are unique in one way, that we all know that there are certain things that our grandfathers, our grandparents used to mix and get treated of some diseases. But now with the complexity and the challenges facing us, you may not have the time to have all of them, put them together. But Hallelujah Reflexology, what they did is they got the ginger for you, they got the turmeric, they got the lemon, they got a lot that you need to boost your immune system, and simply condensed all that in this bottle. So this is a drink that will greatly help your body to have the capacity to fight diseases. Health is a very expensive venture. So the best thing you can do is to ensure that you're healthy, save the inconveniences, but also the pain that results into various illnesses.
Okay, let's just give you a lineup of what you should be expecting today, Monday 8th, here on Good Morning Uganda. And I want to start with Molin Kenyana and Felix Nkunda for the newsreel, and also in regards to what you're going to be talking about in weather, nature and climate. Starting with you, Molin.
Well, yes, we did see a lot happening over the weekend. Saturday was Youth Empowerment Day, and at COP22 they had to have the youth bring in their thoughts and their ideas. Then on Sunday, that was Nature Day, and mostly focusing on forest cover. But also there is a new study that indicates that extreme rainfall could be more frequent and intense than we had thought. And this report is coming in as a warning, so we'll look more into that.
We'll be focusing on what the COSASE did come out to also attribute to from the Uganda Railways, when they did bring out a report, and at least more than 40 billion shillings of Ugandans taxpayers' money was put to waste when they bought machinery that is not fit for purpose.
Okay, all right. Now that's going to be happening in our 7 o'clock hour. In our 8 o'clock hour, Robert Kirabo.
Well, yesterday we saw the NRM chapter South Africa celebrate 59 years of independence, but also the victory of NRM, and it was all rosy, very interesting down there in South Africa. So we hope to take you there to South Africa, and we'll be discussing more of that regarding the celebrations, the impact of this chapter on the politics of Uganda as well.
All right, and Ruben Pima Chivirango will be here with us this morning in the 8 o'clock hour. He will be giving you the sports update, the Sekafa Women's Under-20 Championship. We do have West Ham that managed to have an upper hand on Liverpool, as well as rugby sevens and so much more in the world of sports. So stay with us all the way till 9 a.m. For now, see you in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll leave you with a song for the day.
BBC studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning to you once again, and thank you so much for being here with us Monday, 8th November 2021. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga. This is Good Morning Uganda, and you are watching UBC TV. 2 minutes past 7 a.m. this morning, we get into a newsreel discussion, which is a matter of national importance. As Felix Nkunda did mention, it does touch base with the taxpayers' money. But before we get into that, look at our poll question this morning.
Well, of course, it does also say suggest more ways on vaccination drives that could motivate people to appreciate the exercise. Suggest more ways on vaccination drives that could motivate people to appreciate the exercise. On our Twitter handle, it's UBCGMU, and of course on our WhatsApp, it's 0709 60 25 92.
Well, thank you so much. And onto our newsreel, where we get to look at money that has been spent uselessly so that it can then cost Ugandans taxpayers money. At least 48 billion shillings was splashed by the Uganda Railways Corporation on buying 4 locomotives that are said to have gone to waste, since the version of locomotives from South Africa can actually not be used. Purpose being, the plates that we have here in Uganda are not compatible with the locomotives that were purchased from South Africa. So the alternative is that we then have to get into our pockets and then be able to fund the purchase of plates that can be compatible with the 4 locomotives, trains that were purchased. If not, then we would have to resell off the locomotives, a matter that seems to be impossible. So that is where we base our discussion from this morning. The means of transport that East Africa gets to enjoy is, 1, road transport. You do have water transport, railway transport. These are the major means of transport for goods and trade and so many other things. But when we look at all these developing things that have been happening, especially around Uganda Railways Corporation, it was reignited once again, and we had it reopen. One of the benefits was for locally, especially within metropolitan region, was easing on the transport, and it was supposed to be starting off transporting people. I know one, especially here where you do have Esso Corner, it would be moving from Esso Corner, getting all the way to Wegere, and helping people coming from that area code to easily move from here to there or from there to here, among other parts that were also supposed to be reignited as far as railway transportation is concerned. A matter that does not seem to have bared any fruit as for now. And I know, Robert, you were engaged in that matter particularly. Any assessment in that regard?
Well, first, wonders never cease to end. Because when you talk about this, you wonder how people come out and give funny excuses, like the technical department decided to distance itself because they felt they weren't included, so there wasn't enough teamwork, and therefore decide that whatever comes, it is theirs. You know, when you talk about railway, 2 things that come into your mind if you're going to purchase anything regarding locomotives. First, the plate on which these locomotives are going to move is something that any engineer, even from Chambogo, who has that specification of rail, knows that first and foremost, these things have to move on plates. And they are not universal, that globally every train uses the same. Because as long as they can't fit, they're either too tiny or they are too big for the plates you have on ground, this train will not be able to move. So that was something that we thought anybody who is in charge of purchasing these locomotives was aware of. Then second, you also look at the forehead. That is this engine that pushes the capacity of the wagons you're going to buy. Does it have the ability to pull them? Because you can bring them and they are so heavy for it to move. But what is funny is that the most simplest thing was a defeat. But Priscilla, where do we get to this? Two things. First, there's always a problem of corruption. How does that factor in? That a Priscilla, an expert in that field, one, because of the money involved, can be sidelined. You get it? People will not let someone perfect their role in their department because there is money. So you will see people taking responsibilities that are not entirely theirs because there is a money element. Then second, most of these government procurements, in many of these procurements, we have what we call dealings. That a Priscilla, I know you're going to purchase something, then the other person at the other end where we are going to purchase from will tell you, okay, you're going to buy at about 48 billion. Fine. This is what we have for you. So Priscilla will be blinded, Robert or Felix will be blinded by the fact they have to do due diligence because there's a commission that is very high, that there's something they're going to benefit from it. So money blinds these people in making some of these wise decisions. The challenge is what next? Because when I saw this appearing before Kosase in Parliament, it was like people were discussing, and maybe Felix will throw more light. I wonder what happened. Previously, if a person was going for these committees of Parliament, Felix should remember, people would even kind of shiver, wet pants, even when you would see them on the screen, you follow these proceedings. People would be scared, pack. Kosase, today partaking tea, they are laughing. Yes, comrade, what happened? Is this the Kosase with you?
Okay. All right. Looking at generally the railway system within East Africa, then it was supposed to be uniting trade within East Africa, bringing unity within East Africa. Now, today, over the last span of 10 years, we have had the East African countries continuously having a conversation in having a unified, connected railway system that can be able to boost trade, security, and other things. However, just when it's about to be signed, Tanzania pulls out. Just when it's about to be signed, Kenya will have its reservations and not be able to go ahead with the signings. A little pushes here and there are having an interaction with Tanzania. Most recently, earlier on this year, there was an agreement between us and Tanzania ahead of the oil that we are yet to be getting from Uganda. And of course, we have to move it through one of the railway systems, the pipelines, to be able to send it over to any other places around the world. And these are partnerships that we should be using and building upon in such a time as this to boost the area code of East Africa, Felix.
Yeah, well, of course, we've had some of these bilateral, multilateral, and of course continental agreements in terms of lifting trade. We have had other agreements with other blocks. We have had with ECOWAS, IGAD, and all others. But the actualization of most of these ones must spring from the ability of our internal capacity in terms of what we trade and what we have to put on the platter. And the same definitely is given reason by the ability and the welfare of people in Uganda. It works directly into what we can give. For example, when you have a population that is as good as useless in terms of production, what are you going to offer? Even if you have this bilateral and what and all this. But how this comes to link back to this whole railway issue, and when I was listening to Joel, in fact, I had a conversation with him on, I think, around Friday, just briefly about this whole thing, because he came out, I saw a couple of posts on his WhatsApp trying to bring out these things. And I tried to ask him, and maybe I could also ask our viewers and maybe probably you, my colleagues. I don't know, I know some of, at least most of people have purchased land. You could purchase land, say about, in Uganda you can buy land as low as 800,000 shillings, Chibanja, whatever. But let's imagine you're buying land at 550 million. I remember the first piece of land I bought around the side of Chitezi. I visited that land like 7 times before I paid money. I literally talked to everyone on that village almost because of the kind of investment I was going to put in terms of paying. And when I was listening to these guys in Kosase, I just did, I don't want to believe that this thing is happening. You have people who are technical.
And by this thing, you mean like a blind purchase can be made?
It's just hard to believe. Because, and I think there's a big lie that you people are not being attention to, rather giving attention to, or even there's something that we are not, that I think it's just a scam. How? One, you can't tell me, how, do you know how government purchases? Even if it's buying a spoon. You know the procedure of buying a spoon in a government institution? A spoon for kutabula chai. There's a procedure.
That scrutinizes each and everything.
There's a procedure for buying tea bags in a government institution. Amajani for chai. How can't there be a procedure for buying a locomotive, whatever train, what do you want to call them? Does it make sense, honestly and truly?
That's why, Felix, I told you earlier that
there's a full law, the PPD.
That is all about issues.
There's an institution, there's an authority. There's something they call due diligence. I have been hearing these funny engineers say you weren't involved. That is a
there's lack of teamwork.
That is a very
spirit, and we said whatever they will bring
statement
is theirs. Let
me tell you, that is in fact, if someone said that in front of me in those days, we would fight. Where is it on record that you whistle blew? Okay, you're saying, fair, they didn't tell us. Where is it on record that was put to the attention of the line minister, of the line permanent secretary, or the line boss or whatever? Is it on record?
None that has been.
You don't come. You see, when we used to be children, and mom used to go Nalwoga, see, Priscilla, you're going to mop. Kirabo, you're going to wash the plates. You, Felix, make sure you'll be cooking for your colleagues. Now, when she comes back, and then you didn't mop the house, you know, excuse you start giving. But they were moving here. This Felix, do you know what they can do to you? Kati, it's the same thing these guys are saying. What's the use? I think every person in that institution has a JD. You know, last week we discussed the debt. Robert had a visitor here. We discussed the debt burden. You understand?
Of the country.
We have had this discussion, painful. Priscilla, today, if you want to see the pain of industrial, of the business community, you go and talk about tax. This weekend, I had a meeting with some of my clients, and almost the meeting was spent talking about taxation policy, how they are failing. How they are failing this ground tax, mania tax, what tax, air tax, everything now is going to be taxed. Now, you talk about all these things, and the money we get from Ugandans painfully is wasted easily like this. At the camp, people saying, for me, they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me.
I was not involved.
I was not involved. Who are you? Who are you? What I'm saying is this. You know, we are dealing with a country where we have stagnant growth. Have you ever seen children who are not growing, they are malnourished? But do you know the cause of malnourishment? It is simply about nutrition.
Okay.
Now, we have institutions in this country that should be able to neutralize or to nutrify this child. But guess what's happening? Because it is opposition, actually today, they may think it's an opposition issue. But people power, it is Joel Senyogi. But honestly and truly,
ground. These are facts on
that's
ground.
The thing.
If the locomotives cannot move,
neither are they seated in those chairs of committee as they are seated as responsible
but lastly,
of Parliament to bring
let me just add this
assessment and monitoring.
But lastly, Priscilla, we have had these committees, and they date backwards. We have discussed these things. You remember the issue of the Bank of Uganda. You remember the issues of the land. You remember there have been committees. The question is, if you are able to identify the problem, what is wrong with us being able to identify solutions for these problems? And I think that's the biggest problem of Uganda. Our failure to identify problems, even solutions, even when we are sure of the problems.
Okay.
We are very sure, but we don't know how to get solutions. And is it about politics? Because there's a big relationship between politics and administration or governance, for that matter. There's a big relationship between politics and enforcement of the law.
Let's talk about the problem. You talked about the problem. You reminded me in the president's inauguration speech. He said that Uganda is blessed with surplus of things. And one of the things that are being heavily invested in is industrialization. We have industries that are coming up in the different regions of Uganda day in and day out. And some of these services, such as railway services, would have been good and positive in aiding one, industrialization or regional boosting of industrialization, and also connection of communities and regions and maybe even countries for that matter. And these decisions that we're looking at here are affecting those people. These decisions are affecting investment. These decisions are affecting the people that would have been benefiting from these services directly and indirectly. How can we be able to support investments if such decisions are being made?
First, we must, if we are to support investment, we must ensure that people know that when certain things go wrong in this country, we have tough and deterrent measures. I want to give an example. Previously, before Uganda Investment Authority came out with tough measures on quickening, that is the process of someone registering a business and all that, there was so much corruption. And of course, a person would find it very hard to invest in Uganda, the bureaucracy fixed there, just aiming at deterring these people. So as long as people know that they can carry out and continue doing these things, as just something we talk about. This dates back, if you remember, that sort of junk helicopters, you know, where we invested a lot of money as a country, and we brought things that were next to useless, maybe for tourists to come and see. You remember when someone had to go and purchase army uniform and boots where they're left, many pairs came, this is left, that is left, you know. So there are so many cases we can quote of such things being done in this country. But as long as people know that you can carry out such actions, go back home and sleep. Felix talked about where was the whistleblower. Because you know government is going to lose a lot of money. You keep quiet. And you can even have the guts to come to a committee of parliament and simply say, there wasn't teamwork, we were sidelined. Therefore, we said, whatever they bring is theirs. You're home eating cheap sausage and everything. So I think any country, countries that have developed, Priscilla, one of the things they did, go to Singapore under Lee Kuan Yew. One of the things they came up with was having deterrent measures that a person will know that is hot charcoal, don't touch. This deal, darling, and what is killing us is selective justice, even where we have justice. Where the laws could work, there is selectiveness in that. Second, we've not really come out to ensure that we hold people accountable. So an investor at a certain point would yes say, Uganda is a good country, they have the resources you need. Uganda is a good country, there is the peace. Uganda is a good country. It has a population that will purchase what you're going to do, because those are basics that an investor will look at. Then they will look at Uganda, they will give you incentives. But as long as they know that in Uganda you can supply to someone and maybe they don't pay you, and influence over time you lose. In Uganda, you go there because of a railway, and then such come, we shall still not promote or aid them in any direction.
Okay.
So our time is for us to see these COSASs, these CGE Park and all that have biting teeth. This is just lowering, and the Nyonyintono and group, I think we've done a lot of talking and daring and narrating and doing all this. We need to bite.
Okay. Speaking of biting, the very same Uganda Railways Corporation last week was also under the limelight in regards to land. A lot of land, over 100 acres, being lost or sold off, and of course the people in higher positions of management being among those that were doing these dubious things of selling land, which is supposed to be government land, which is supposed to be railway land. And now that they're supposed to be revamping of the gauge line, it's definitely a challenge for them. People are saying, no, this is my property. When it comes to evacuation of people, they're saying, but we have evidence that this land was sold to us. Let's look at that in being a challenge of moving the railway forward in terms of development and resuscitation.
You see, enforcement of some of these plans is there. Like putting the rail in place, it is like the fault can't be to the railways, because for them you go and buy and install the machinery. The fault is with leadership. Leadership. One, when you look at, you see, this institution falls under a particular ministry, and that minister has also a reporting channel. We have arms of government, and one of the biggest arms of government, if you've spoke directly into the separation of powers, but also the need for checks and balances, that every institution has roles in what the others do. And it works like that. When Kirabo talks about the issue of biting and what, and barking dogs and what, when you see people stealing people's money, Uganda's money, if I may add, and those who are unfortunate are prosecuted, at that point, what is the role of the judiciary in limiting some of these things? What is the role of parliament in limiting some of these things? But most importantly also, what is the role of the head? You know, you cannot detach some of these activities from the head. It's sad and painful that when you're dealing with issues like this, you ask yourself, but wasn't there someone? Isn't there like a supervisor? Isn't there someone who should be checking? Now the selling of land, honestly and truly. And that's why I am certain to believe that this country is worse off with educated people than the uneducated. And I think that's a matter of fact. Very soon should be, I'll bring the evidence to the latter. I think we are safer with uneducated people than the same people who say they're educated. Education has become useless because the people who actually are educated are doing more worse to this country than people who are uneducated. Priscilla, when you go to buy tomatoes, you as a woman, you don't just tell them muzili. I have seen
a woman get one that is thin, exactly.
This one. But
to check if it's raw or it's ripe.
That's the thing. Because you know what you want.
I know I want to have them for 5 days.
Exactly.
So
you have to have some to cook today, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, if you can do that buying tomatoes, people are selling land. That issue of land has been there for about the last 5 years. From Narukolongo up till probably somewhere, when you pass Buya behind, you go to Chireka.
Yes.
These issues have been there.
Even in Gulu, even in
and they are still happening. But truth of the matter, unless you're telling us there are people who are involved, and these are people who are supervisors, you cannot, there's no way you can detach leadership from such kind of things. If you talk about these things happening, the purchase of these bogus, whatever, locomotives, the sale of lands, we must be able to investigate and find out the people who are part of this. But I know for a fact, and this I'll say, that when such things happen, they're giving the evidence of how we are lazy as a country. Kenya, in its own capacity, was able to successfully pick up its standard gauge railway project. And I have used it personally. I know the experience. It is so lovely.
With the modern locomotives.
It is so lovely. I remember taking a train from Nairobi to Mombasa. It only took about 3 to 4 hours. Yet on a bus, it's 1 day almost. And for a plane, of course, it's relatively about an hour or something. But I went to the train. Man, it was really a good experience. The order, the organization, how you book. And it has aided trade between that area of the country and the city. Now, what is in for us? In fact, you talked about these projects in the beginning. The reason why, some of the reasons why these countries pulled back,
some of them choose
is
to,
simply because of the unprofessionalism of some of our people here. There is so much talk of kickbacks. Robert touched that point.
The brown
people are going to buy things of 4.8, 48, whatever billion. But probably they may be thinking of retaining about 20 million. And when you go to South Africa, if the COSAS is smart enough to go to South Africa, you'll know that these locomotives could have cost maybe 10 billion, not the 40 points or whatever billion. Now, it shows you the kind of rot. But I have time and again said this, Priscilla, and I want to say it again. When people are in offices of power and they are stealing money, they forget one thing. They are not the first people there, for starters. Secondly, that, you know, when I growing up, my parents and mostly my grand used to tell me a lot. When he has to do something wrong, he normally says, "Nek nawo di musajjo jazara." And
Your
that
time will come,
yeah,
and you will
that,
feel
that
the
time
pains
will
of
come.
a father.
And we have said time and again, you may think you're far from these problems, but you're so close to the effects. You don't, even if you don't go to prison, your child can be directly affected by some of the things we do. But secondly, where is the statesmanship of Ugandans? Countries like Israel, before you become a public servant, you go for some of these courses. In fact, let me tell you, some countries, after S6, these kids are taken for, some people call it boot camp, to re-understand the country.
We once had it, and that was at Nali, but it was kind of seen as more of indoctrinating people. Either it wasn't
maybe it was actually indoctrinating people, not seen. Maybe it was. But if we formulate something that is inclusive, let me tell you, people here don't know that they're Ugandans. I think sometimes they forget. I think these SCs make people's minds forget that they're Ugandans.
Okay.
No, it is the reason. Actually, they don't forget that they're Ugandans, but because they have been able to do these things with impunity and nothing happens to them. The countries we've talked about, Felix, all of them have punitive measures when it comes to dealing with people that act nonsensical in public offices. Because for me, I cease to call this corruption.
Okay.
I call it stealing and acting in a manner that is not worth even of being great as a human.
A response to the statements arising from COSASA meeting, the Uganda Railways Commission is affirming yet again that the purchase of the 4 locomotives was fit for purpose, reliable and also compatible with the meter gauge railway system. They are also saying that currently URC personnel, that's engineers and drivers, are being trained and tested to operate and maintain locomotives. Then you also get to see another response for them in a statement stating that URC is undertaking sport track improvement and modification to the triangles and the turning points of the 4 locomotives to operate safely, and will be completed by the 15th of this very same month. And therefore, Uganda Railways Commission does reassure its customers and general public that these locomotives are what we need to satisfy the capacity demand of their clientele. And that's their response.
Did we have receptionists? Who was in COSASA?
That's a good question. Only them can answer, which really leaves us the kind of ones that has been opened. One of the biggest things that have come out of any of these meetings, parliamentary committees assessing, monitoring and evaluating the works of different sectors that are serving the public with good services, or just services basically. The assessment of it all has just come down to one thing: corruption, or continued embedment of corruption within the system. And what are we doing about it? Whistleblowers know it, but they will not whistle or blow it for that matter, because they're all benefiting. It's a chain beneficiary system. So if I whistleblow on you, I am going to lose. I probably will go down with you and things like that. Let's not be part of the corruption. Let us make sure that we do our due diligence for why we were given the jobs that we do have. A recap onto our poll question this morning.
And that is suggest more ways on vaccination drives that could motivate people to appreciate the exercise. Now also this springs from some of them that have been happening. We had one in Kololo, we're having one that's been going on at Vulange, and clearly they have all yielded much. So what more can we do in terms of these drives to appreciate the exercise and motivate people to get vaccinated more?
Okay, 30 minutes to the top of the hour. We get to now have a look at the tabloids this Monday morning. Traffic updates will also be coming in. Molen Kenana will be closing the 7 o'clock hour with weather, nature and a climate update. Stay with us.
you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175 hash and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network. After bringing Kigali to its knees on energy shift to Nairobi, nothing brings out the true picture of a football derby like the Mijingo Derby. It's a derby that leaves many desiring for more. And oh yes! This is the time that the question that is frequently asked will be answered. If you own the water, we own the land. And all this will be sorted out on the 11th of November 2021 at the St. Mary's Stadium in Chitende. Join us live on UBC TV free to air and radios as we bring you action after action as the two bulls fight and we sit back and relax at the comfort of our homes. UBC TV and radios, your home of sports.
Today, we bring to you a talk show discussing the tenets and the imperatives of what is happening today in the country towards realizing a scalable, competitive, and sustainable mobility industry value chain in Uganda, producing over 500,000 vehicles with 65% localization by 2030. This show is brought to you by the Secretariat of Science, Technology and Innovation in the Office of the President through the leadership of Honorable Dr. Monica Msenero in partnership with Private Sector Foundation and Uganda Broadcasting Corporation.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Where else, just start it with us every morning from 6:30, because we shall ensure that you're well versed with what is happening locally and also international. We give you a well-packaged breakfast of information for you to kickstart your day. So join us every weekday. It's time now. We take you through what is happening in the print media. I have the New Vision. My colleague has the Daily Monitor and the Daily Nation. Beginning with the front page, a very big headline there. Government okays children COVID-19 vaccination. That is children with asthma, sickle cells, diabetes to get. That is the Pfizer jab, and there will be the priority children there. Still, we look at mass COVID-19 vaccination. What happened at Bulange Mengo over the weekend, where thousands stand up, braved the rain to get that job. So what are you waiting for? We also go to, that is security, house security tracked, that is the bus bomb suspect. But also in the education bit of it, there is a Pass O level, and they have brought you Senior 3 literature, mathematics, physics, plus Senior 2 biology and chemistry. As we gear up to celebrate World International AIDS Day, there is much regarding foods fit for those on ARVs. And also still the New Vision brings you opportunities, that is over 300 jobs and tenders there for you. You never know, this could be your major breakthrough. And also Museveni orders investors to unblock, that is a public road. Which road is that? Let's, of course, more is in the vision for you.
The Daily Monitor, Byanyima Muhoozi clash over Tigray war, and why drinking water is important. Now, of course, Commonwealth torch in Ireland, and AG resolves impasse over new cities. Now, police chief Shan send-off fate, and US donates at least 3.4 million more vaccines to Uganda. Now, MPs accuse finance of usurping their powers, and Ethiopia rebels dismiss fear of city blood bath. Now, of course, here in the archives is a photo of Sir Andrew Cohen and wife say goodbye to Ugandan officials in Kampala. That is 1957. He was the governor of Uganda. Then, now, last group of expelled Indians leave Uganda. That is in November 8, 1972. But also, German scientists discover X-ray. That was in November 1895.
Looking at the New Vision again, we look at facts about HIV/AIDS. What do I do to stay HIV negative? That is a question for you. COVID tracker this morning, we look at new confirmed cases, that is 78 of them. Then positive rate, that is 1.5. New death, one person has succumbed to COVID-19. And total deaths so far registered in Uganda due to COVID-19, 3,227. Once again, go get that jab so that we fight severe illness and death, but also perfect the soaps. We need the positivity rate as low as possible. What to do? Don't forget to wash your hands often with soap and water. Maintain social distancing, at least a meter of 2, and also avoid touching your face before washing your hands with soap and water.
Now in sports, Uganda, Kenya renew rivalry, and of course that is Uganda, Kenya and Rwanda out of the running for the Qatar 2022 World Cup, leaving Group E leaders Mali and Uganda to fight it out for the only playoff ticket. Now, of course, English Premier League, Arsenal climbs above United, and Mandela sole candidate in SC Villa race. Now, Medi Mukoya strike gold as Uganda clinch African title. But of course, that is Alvarez KOs, that is knocks out planned to make super middleweight history. And also Cranes, that is we see the Cranes Sekafa silent assassin Nandago comes of age, and Muntai star Kiplingat win Istanbul Marathon.
Looking at the New Vision Sport this morning, we have Mandela there. This is why I returned. That is Mandela, first of the 5-part series. He's back to SC Villa there to give his full support to the team there. But also African Giants, they give you more the overall table, how things are standing in that category. But don't forget, Ruben will be here to give you all the updates and catchy stories in the world of sports. So don't miss that.
The Daily Nation, we're looking at waterfall of death. Residents reveal their beautiful sight that swallowed boys. And of course, in the big headline, revealed the Raila shillings, that is 150 billion cash plan there, at least what you'll be looking at using in the forthcoming elections. But Ruto writes to IEBC over, that is Mitianji Macheru. And of course, still most of the important stories there. Also, it's joy of a Maulid for Muslims, and many stories still about the election to come. That is next year. Kenyans are happy in gear, and we hope all this will go well for them. Now, of course, away from the papers, we want to look at traffic, getting to know how you hit the roads on Monday, and as you get yourself into the heart of this beautiful country.
Well, thank you so much, Felix Nkunda. Nkunda, we get to look at how you can get yourself into the heart of the city. And we want to look at Old Kampala being our heart of the city this morning and see how means of transport, especially public transport, is affecting the flow of traffic, especially from Rubaga, Mengo, Rubidi, all the way into Namirembe and downtown Kampala. We get to see bus terminals. Of course, you know that buses are having movements to different networks within the country. So we want to see how those are being affected right now with the heavy jam that we are seeing in some of these areas. Looking at Chisenyi, where you do have a lot of traffic that comes in from Chisenyi into Kafumbe Mkasa Road, which then connects you into Old Kampala, you get to see that through the Chisenyi bus terminal, you have a long stretch of traffic jam that is coming into the heart of the city, but also a long stretch of traffic jam that is leaving the heart of the city. Transport, especially public transport, downtown Kampala will alternatively use these particular routes through Chisenyi to be able to connect to the areas of Rubaga, areas of basically Rubaga division. And then around Owino Market, expectedly St. Bali Kudembe Market, you get to also have a lot of traffic building up there. Being a Monday, you do have those that have their produce bringing it into the city, and those that have to trade with them are doing the trading, which again is also going to cost us in terms of time and money, causing the traffic jam on the road. We do have the stretch that comes in from Mukwano Center Shopping Arcade and goes all the way into Matia Murumba Road and then connects to Namirembe Road, then connects you to Bakuli. Now that entire stretch this morning from Nachivubo is also indicating a long stretch of traffic jam all the way into Namirembe Road, which also indicates that there's a lot of public transport that is using this particular route. Matia Murumba Road is usually around the ring road, sort of around the Uganda National Mosque. On the other side, you do have the Old Kampala Road, and these ones are also going to be having a lot of traffic in the coming few minutes because they're alternative routes for taxis to be able to just do a merry-go-around and either connect to Mwanga 2 Road or even connect to the areas of Kafumbe Mkasa or Chisenyi for that matter. Elsewhere, you get to see Namirembe Road and what the traffic is looking like. It's quite a dead zone in terms of red. From Albert Cook, which comes in from Mengo Hospital, connects to Bakuli and then connects to Fort Road right into Old Kampala. You're seeing a lot of red into orange lines, meaning that the traffic is more slow than expected. Equally on Hoima Road, stretching from Rubaga and into Hoima Road, you get to see a long line of traffic coming into and interacting with Bakuli. And that means indications of either it's public transport still trying to connect to Chisenyi this morning to be able to connect to the bus terminals or even the taxi terminals that are downtown Kampala. Away from that, you also get to see that on Hoima Road, there's a lot of traffic that you're going to be experiencing when it comes to another joint junction here that comes in from Omkat School of Journalism, cuts through Hoima Road and is heading into Mengo. Now that road here also is having a lot of traffic jam that is building up from Makerere, where you do have Nana Hostel. That turn is also giving you a long stretch of a red zone into the heart of the city. Connectively, you get to see that these routes are all adjacent to each other. You do have Kampala Baptist here, which is the Makerere the traffic lights at Makerere, also adjacent to the traffic lights at where you do have Nankulabi, and each of them are giving you an indication of heavy traffic that is flowing into the heart of the city, because these are routes that bring in traffic Makerere into the likes of downtown Kampala. Of course, this is also bringing in traffic from the other parts of Sebwai, Sesa, Apollo Kagwa. We get to see that everywhere on Makerere Road, heading into the Makerere traffic lights where you do have Makerere College, you get to see long stretches of traffic that are coming through on that lane. Also, even coming in from Nankulabi, if you were to use Hoima Road, you'll still get some traffic there. If you were to use the connection route from Nankulabi to Makerere, you're still going to experience a lot of traffic. Obviously, it's 15 minutes to the top of the hour, 8 a.m. So traffic is expected on a Monday morning. And then we get to remind you that we had a discussion last week on the Entebbe-Kampala Express Highway. Yes, we're going to be paying some money for it, but did you know that you can actually have free services on the Express Highway in case you get any technical challenges with your vehicle? Some of the free services that you can enjoy in less than 10 minutes of making a phone call. One of them is towing services, and so you can get to be towed to the nearest toll plaza holding ground. The other service that you get to freely enjoy if you are on the Entebbe Express Highway is a free rescue services, or also ambulance services are readily available for you. Even incident management is readily available for you, and that's very simple. How do you get to enjoy this free service? You get to save this number 0800270170, and you will be able to make that phone call in case your car breaks down, you've run out of fuel, and any other incident that has happened to you while using the Express Highway. We definitely have these services available for you, so that is something for you to note. And the good news is that here on Good Morning Uganda Agenda, we're going to be hosting UNRA, and we're going to be getting more of this information and how you can best enjoy the Entebbe Express Highway. Any questions that you will have this week on Good Morning Uganda, they are going to be answered. For now, Marlon Kenyana on the nature, weather and climate.
Well, thank you very much, Priscilla. We want to take a recap and see what has been happening on the ongoing climate summit that is in Glasgow, UK, and more that is coming in. We did see last week more of the talks talking about the energy and how we can actually curb the increase in emissions in the atmosphere. Now, more of that is also what they talked about, that is on Saturday, that was all about the Youth Empowerment Day. We did see more of the decisions that are coming in from the youth, and we've had a lot of representation at COP in regards to youth organizations. There is Fridays for the Future. We did see their leader, Greta Thunberg, arriving earlier last week for the conference. We have our very own Vanessa Nakate at the conference as well, and Elizabeth from Kenya. All these young people with youth movements that are actually addressing the challenge of climate change, and those talks continue. And so it was important that at least Saturday was given out to see what the youth have to contribute. But we also Sunday we did again look at more on the forest cover, especially the fight with regards to deforestation, which seems to be on the rise. So there was a need to actually stress out the fact that we are looking at forests as one of the sinks. The cover is the one that is helping to tap some of that carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and in turn it will reduce the extreme heat that we are looking at even for the next decades. So that is still an ongoing conversation, but more of what is coming out even for now is that at least all the leaders from all the nations that are party to this conference, that is over 200 countries, have agreed to at least reduce the use of fossil fuels from coal, oil and gas, and now most of them are looking at renewable energy. Now it is from that we did look at the energy minister from the US, where she was talking about the fact that we could be looking at more of energy costs in America, and she did talk about the fact that during this winter we could be looking at more of the fuel stations actually hiking prices. I don't know whether that might actually affect even the rest of us in the world, but with most of these countries that are actually major in oil production and gas production hiking prices, that could be coming home as well. So we wait and see actually after the summit what most of the resolutions will be, but more to that has a lot to do with cuts in energy. Now, amidst all that, there is a new report that researchers have worked out. Now, it is the first time that researchers have used climate models to predict future events. Now, this was done by the UK Met Office, and they are looking at high-resolution climate models, and now most of these are at 2.2 kilometer resolution, meaning that this is a high coverage kind of model. Now, for them, they are predicting that we're going to have extreme rainfall to extreme events like flooding, looking at more of landslides. Now, this report comes at a good time that we're having this climate summit, because this goes to tell you that what we're looking at in the future is more catastrophic. And for the first time, we're seeing such models come out with resolutions to have extreme weather in prediction for the future. So that means that we're looking at more of these events. We're looking at more heat waves. We're looking at more sea level rise. And to talk about flooding, this is something, and the whole of this year we have had events of flooding all over the world, and this seems to be a huge challenge. Now, I do hope that even the leaders that are representing us at COP26 do know that with a research like this showing such predictions, then there is urgent need, because I've seen most of the decisions that actually came out. The biggest emitters of these emissions are actually not party to it. We did see China refusing to be part of one of the agreements that we're talking about energy, and then Australia as well. But I guess it is still a long stretch, and we have our scientists working very hard to make sure that people are able to see. And more of that is from the World Meteorological Organization, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Most of the scientists from these organizations are the ones that are making sure that people listen. Well, there are politicians mostly who are presenting us, but well, we can't take climate change off the political agenda. So either way, we have to work together. But also there is more about the raging gas that is methane. Now, methane poses more challenge compared to carbon dioxide, and this was from Australia again, looking at how methane comes into the atmosphere and what are the threats that it poses, because it traps more heat than carbon dioxide, although it comes from just a few sources, especially biomass and most of the waste products. But it is still one of those gases that are feared, and it is on the rise. So that means that we are looking at more possibilities of having more heat in the atmosphere as methane increases. So this is something that I think also countries need to look at and talk about. How can we make sure that even when we put out these waste management plants, we are able to maintain the methane gas within reach? And this is also something that KCCA talked about, I think, earlier this year. They are looking at putting a way to get the methane, to trap the methane, even when they have this water treatment plants and sewage plants. They're able to make sure that that methane is trapped. Actually, if this is tapped, it is used for, it can be put to use. And so that is one way to make sure that countries agree to what could happen with regards to some of these gases that are going into the atmosphere. But well, coming from there, we want to take a look at what is happening over Uganda, and our satellites this morning depicting most of the weather conditions that we have started up with. We do have a rainy system that is starting from the northwestern part of Uganda. Now that is actually started earlier last night. It is stretching from Juba, and that is bringing rains across parts of the northwestern part of the country, where we have also Arua, Yumbe. Now that rainy system could actually be going all the way for most areas across northwestern Uganda this morning. Now, more of what we're seeing across most areas, we're seeing mostly cloudy conditions. Still, there is a rainy system that is trying to develop, that is across Lake Albert, and that might be bringing in more rains across midwestern Uganda, that is parts of Masindi, Hoima. You can look out for those rains early, for this morning. Now that system is actually also stretching towards central North Gulu, already having those cloudy conditions that could be precipitating anytime, if not even a few areas, at least to the extreme north of central northern Uganda, are already having rainy conditions. But we do expect this to move more to the westward part, so that means that at least as it clears from Gulu, mostly Kitgum, Padel, it might also be bringing more rains towards Arua, and that is going to clear towards that side of DRC. But we also have more of the cloudy conditions developing across the central part of Uganda, and that is likely to be bringing us rains this morning as well. We do have at least more clouds stretching across Lake Choga region, and that is also likely to be bringing us rains. Now, starting off with a sunny morning is Karamoja region. We're seeing only clear skies, so that indicates a mostly clear and sunny morning over that area. Now, southwestern Uganda also dealing with a mix of clouds and sunshine, much sunshine though, at least across parts of Mbarara, but we do see most of the clouds that are developing from Lake Victoria also headed towards the southwestern and also western parts of the country, so that could actually also bring us rains as the day progresses. But we'll go ahead and take a look at our forecast for different areas across the country this morning. Now we start off with the western parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe and Rakai. We are forecasting isolated showers. Those will be across a few places, starting off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade. We do expect that system to continue into the afternoon, where we expect more rains. Now southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rubirizi, we are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, looking at a warm 27 starting off over there, but we do expect more rains as well across that area. Well, looking at the eastern part of Lake Victoria, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja, we're likely to start off with a few showers. Those will be across a few areas, starting off with a warm 28, and we will look at more temperatures going up as the day continues. We'll look at the central parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Mukono, we have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso. We're looking at isolated showers. Also, those will be over a few places, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade. We're also likely to have that system in the afternoon over a few places. Now, central northern Uganda already having most of those cloudy conditions, but we do expect a mix of sunny conditions, and also starting off with a 27, which is quite warm for this morning over that area. Well, we'll look at the eastern parts of Central, where we have Ruwero, Wobulenzi, Bududi, Nakaseke. We are forecasting isolated showers, and also starting off with a maximum of 26 for this morning, but we do expect that rain condition to actually continue into the afternoon. We will be looking at more rains when it comes to the eastern part of Central. Well, eastern Uganda, where we have Soroti, Katakwi, Amoria and Kumi, we're forecasting isolated showers, also likely to start off with a pleasant 26 degrees centigrade, but that system will continue. And afternoon, we might look at a clearing trend with sunny conditions coming in later in the evening. We look at Mount Elgon Highlands, where we have Mbale, Bududa, Buko, Sironko. We are forecasting isolated showers over several places, and also that is starting off at a cool 24 degrees centigrade. But we also look at that system clearing in the afternoon, where we will have mostly a mix of clouds and sunshine. Looks like most of the southern sector is actually having reduced wet weather activities. For today, we're having mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, and most of that might actually continue into the afternoon. We might look at a clear day, but note for the northwestern part of the country, it continues to have rains, and that system is likely to continue even in the afternoon, so that is one to look out for. Well, I'll leave you at that. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Robert will be here to take you through that, and then after we will have sports updates from Ruben. Well, not forgetting that after that we'll have Good Morning Uganda Extra that is coming in by Jagenda Semakula. Well, I'm Molen Kenyana wishing you a good morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Chula ntende ku program obulamu bwo.
was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
everywhere you go. MTN.
Today, we bring to you a talk show discussing the tenets and the imperatives of what is happening today in the country towards realizing a scalable, competitive, and sustainable mobility industry value chain in Uganda, producing over 500,000 vehicles with 65% localization by 2030. This show is brought to you by the Secretariat of Science, Technology and Innovation in the Office of the President through the leadership of Honorable Dr. Monica Msenero in partnership with Private Sector Foundation and Uganda Broadcasting Corporation.
Transact using Airtel Money. Use Airtel Money to send money, buy airtime for self, do mobile banking, make merchant payments and international money transfers with a minimum of 1,000 shillings and get 5 minutes free Airtel to Airtel calls valid for 24 hours. 3 minutes offer is for any of these fast 5 transactions within the same calendar month. Terms and conditions apply. Airtel Money. Simple, secure, borderless.
The program lineup on UBC. Brought to you by Roofings, Strength of a Nation.